Right, so over the past 18 months, we're starting to see innovation take a trajectory in which technology has become more available than ever before, right? And that applies to your software, your services, even your talent has become more accessible to any bank and it's become much more cheaper as well. And what this means is that the threshold to innovate is becoming much lower. Anyone has the opportunity to be special, right? But this introduces a problem in terms of competitiveness because one, if everyone is special, then no one is special, right? And that has always been a challenge. And number two is that the industry is quite literally spoiled for choice because how do you know which technology, which business model, which suite of solutions is actually right for your business? Do you want to wait and see and copy somebody else, or do you really want to take a gamble to do something completely unprecedented in the market with a very high risk of failure? So there are a lot of issues that the CIO, the CEO, the CEO has to contend with nowadays. In IDC, so our research actually tries to narrow down or at least minimize the risk in terms of what technologies we recommend the market to embrace more than others, right? So if you try to imagine, we've seen thousands of flagship fintech initiatives come to market over the past year or so. And if we really arrange them in order and try to look for tags, what technologies they use, right? So some more sophisticated projects has like big data plus edge analytics plus a payments component, etc., plus e-money, right? And other projects uses a completely different suite of solutions. You see certain technologies, one, recur more frequently than others. And number two, you'll see certain connections, certain combinations of technologies occur more frequently than others. So this gives us two very interesting metrics, right? One, we got to find out what the so-called anchor technologies are in the market. Technologies that enable the adoption of other technologies that ultimately enable more flexible innovation. But that's not the only list of technologies as well, because we're talking hundreds of different technologies out in the market now. So aside from these so-called anchor technologies, we also have what we call transitionary technologies. These are technologies that are, as far as competitiveness goes, right, they are in a state of flux. Their adoption could either be increasing, they're forming much more connections, or they're starting to lose connections, right? So, for example, older so-called last generation technologies like loyalty systems, like cards co-branding systems, even to some extent product marketplaces. Those are increasingly falling out of favor by the market, or at least they are stagnating at this point. Maybe they'll pick up a second win in the near future, maybe not, right? But there are some technologies on the rise, like blockchain, or finding much more use cases being applicable, not just in trade finance, for example. Now it's being applied to content management into retail marketplaces, for example. So new opportunities come and go. Right, so for all we know, anchor technologies in 2020 could look very different from what we have this year. This year, as far as we know, it's very payments oriented. And we suspect that next year it will become perhaps much more sophisticated as our agenda for human-centric banking moves and evolves further. Yeah. Every person you speak to has a different definition of innovation. You know, is it a business thing? Is it a technology thing? Is it a conceptual thing? At least within our scope of work at IDC Financial Insights, we try to have a very clear definition of what it is, and we go back to basics. Do not think about innovation in the context of fintech or even banking. Look at it from technologies in general. So I'm not just talking mobile phones, I'm not talking about the internet. Go back to organic fertilizers, go back to the industry revolution, right? And the key part of technological innovation is that it allows any business to create a replicable method of operating with more efficiently. And that's basically it. And efficiency means being able to produce more output per unit input, right? And it's as simple as that. Now you may think, oh, does that mean that, say, if I got a cheaper ATM supplier, does that mean I'm innovative because less input cash to buy such assets, and I get more channel touch points, right? And no, because somebody else in the ecosystem is actually absorbing that cost. Either you are paying for it or your supplier is, paying for that bargain. So the efficiency of the system hasn't improved. You're paying more for equivalently more, but you are not shifting to become more efficient, right? So true innovation, again, the example I gave was organic fertilizers, right? Like in the 1700s, it takes at least a community of 8 farmers to produce enough surplus for one additional individual. Meaning the minimum size of a village has to be 8 people or everyone will starve, right? And once the technology evolved sufficiently, now you really only need 2 farmers to create a surplus of that can sustain 100 people in a village. So that is a drastic shift in efficiency, at least in the agricultural sector. Now, going back to the story of banking, right? So there are a lot of opportunities that we're seeing in terms of the substitution of manual labor. I've talked a lot about robotic process automation, RPAs, but we're also seeing opportunities in edge and analytics as well, that again, if married together with the right suite of technologies, can help the bank achieve productivity levels that the industry could have never attained like in the space of even 1 year ago.